I have really got to get this camera down. One of these days, I'll actually have it figured out to the point where I want it, because I don't have it where I want it. Hi, people. Hello. Greetings, people. Um, Happy day of picking out and football galore before Eve Day thing. What y'all doing? Hi, folks. Um, we're here. We're live. Uh, it's the day before people stuff their faces in America. Um, and burp and fart while watching football. Uh, Hope y'all could join in. We're streaming to you live. What's going on this week? Well, nothing. It's been a wet and snowy and windy. Actually, that's not really true at all. But like, I'm just trying to fly, and I'm noticing how my weather's been changing a little bit, and it's been cooperating somewhat, and it's not been cooperating somewhat. Just like, I mean, I got some flights in, and I got some days in, and how have y'all been doing? Y'all got some flights in, flights in, days in that you can fly. How about them winter days, folks? Y'all working on them winter days? Yeah, we started a little bit late. Apologies. I was trying to, well, eat. A little bit more than that, but I was thinking. Okay, I got my studio mostly set up, other than the fact that I don't like where my camera's at. Again, don't know what the hell this is. I'm also trying something a little bit different here. We'll see if it works. I'm not going to give you any hints, any clues as to what the hell's going on. I'm just going to let you ride it on out. Um, but the experiment was kind of already started, hence why they probably, I don't know if you got a brief blurb of the live shot before. Um, that was part of it. I'm putting a lot of ums in here, excuse me. I don't know what the hell's going on. What I did was trying to change the feed around to make it more tangible, to do certain things I'm setting it up to do. Uh, I'm assuming this is week 2 of the government lockdown, or the industry lockdown, as it were. So, once again, because I don't know what the deal is, but once again, we're stuck here. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, but I'm here. We'll do some things. I'm gonna try to build something with y'all tonight. Uh, Nothing in particular, but also one of the things we want to talk about. I really want to talk about. We've touched on this before, but I figured it was good to rehash because I discovered my paper after cleaning out my studio. Um, any of y'all camouflage anything? Y'all, where'd my box go? Oh, that's right. Okay. Any of y'all have camouflage anything? Use camouflage? Uh, a lot of times when you build paper airplanes, of course, there's one of like, okay, a lot of times, yeah, admittingly, that's all you do is paper airplanes. There's really no point to building upon that. They're basic things. Use your paper, use your tape. For those of us that actually do taper, it's not like you're. Wow, that was hard. It writes. It's not like you're needing to put any camouflage on there. Um, if you wrap it in tape that's shiny, if you wrap it in tape that's glossy and of different colors, blue, red, green, the brightest of colors. So you're not really doing any camouflage. And I'm just kind of wondering if any of y'all have done that, because some of the things we had touched on before is we here at IVPAC see ourselves as quote unquote combat ready. So it's like, how do we, in the terms of combat, camouflage our aircraft? Well, it's a dual-edged sword, because you don't want to, make it so hard that you can't see it. Of course, if you launched it, you're the one that keeps track. So, a little bit easier for you having your own plane, keep track of it, and let the enemy not see it. And of course, if your flight is longer duration for, say, the Striker and the bombers, you don't need you need more for them and not so much for you, because you can see yours depart. Obviously, any of the clear plastic planes, that's pretty much the best camouflage. It's not necessarily, oh, I don't know. It's not necessarily the greatest of things, because you can't, it's harder to put anything on them word-wise, letter-wise, font-wise, and still see it. But then again, you don't really need to see so much of it in the first place. What I'm basically getting at though is like if you're trying to blend it into the backgrounds, and again, we touched on this a while back, and I mean, let's face it, we kind of went in depth about it because we were talking about how you could make it either true nature of the camouflage match your surroundings, or you could make it look like other things that fly through the air, such as birds and such. If any of y'all have actually had birds attack your planes, you notice how invigorating that could be. Seriously, that you think like, oh man, those birds really like just don't like my plane flying in their area, even though there's like a group of 20 of them. Birds are really communal, and yet you figure you're throwing nothing in there, but man, I've had so many phases, and typically, of course, it's been phases, not for any other reason because there's more of them, but really it's the phases that have been attacked the most. They get more airtime. And just looking like normal planes, but it is what gave me the idea to camouflage them, because I was thinking along the lines of, well, I mean, if said plane is camouflaged, birds may or may not go after it if it looks like another bird. If they can't see it, what can birds even see? I mean, those are like twisted variations of it. I kind of wonder, like, what can birds can or can't see, you know? Anybody have a... I know, Google. Whatever. Trying to stay away from that demon. Anyway, but I have, and always with crayon, I like to point out, like, if you're going to be coloring, and we do like to color, you're going to be coloring, crayon is probably the primary way to go. It's why I have so many. You can use marker, but of course marker is wet. You could use pencil. Pencil's probably pretty good too. That all depends on the style of writing. I have a very, very heavy style. I push hard when I write. I don't know how many of you guys, do any of you guys actually use like the rubber grip of the pencil that they come with? Do you guys hold it like there? I find when I'm actually getting into it, I hold it so far down that it's not, like I can't, it's not going to work for me. Rubber grips don't ever work for me because I never hold that high up. I don't even know what that'd be like. I'd be forging my own name if I hold my pens that high up. Although in a fatter pen, it is more comfortable, I have to admit. But if it was a standard skinny pen, gel pens, I mean, I find myself, I always drift down here, get ready to write, and I'm drifting down to the hard tip of the pen. So anywho, if your style of writing is heavy, a pencil's not exactly a great idea because, I mean, like, okay, if you have these automatic pencils or something with the tips, they can train you. Like you just can't write hard or else you're going to end up breaking something. You probably have experience with that too. Filling in your Scantron bubbles. But like the tips break, can't have that happening to you all the time. So, thicker lead, thicker pen. I never did like the ultra fine points because of that, because I press so hard. If I glided, probably wouldn't mind them so bad. But I do have a heavy hand when it comes to writing, so most of mine don't turn out the way I'd like them to turn out. Boo-hoo. And again, if you're using pencil in this situation, I find like I'm dealing with, I don't know about you guys, I find I deal with a whole lot of, they just don't work because the pencils are, well, they're not agreeable. I mean, like, they don't, I end up leaving ridges. I end up leaving indentions. And it carries through. Like, of course, if you're in the middle of your folds, you're trying to form your wing, and you're sitting here, and like me, I'm pushing, so it's changing the texture and layout of the wings. I can't have that. I can't do that. So again, if it's on you guys if you can. If you have a light hand, and I mean, I'm perfectly capable. I've taken drawing classes. I can draw, and I can change shades. I can get 13 different shades out of a pencil. It's not bragging. It's a statement of fact, and again, if you've taken the class, anybody can do it. So you know your differences between lights and darks. If you can ombre the color of a pencil, you can do that. But I mean, when I'm writing, when I'm coloring, my standard is towards the heavy end. I have a heavy hand. I can't use pencils that well. Crayons don't like do that to you. I mean, even at their finest tip, the way they apply their wax, because I think that's all it is, it doesn't affect the paper as much. You don't have a tendency to damage it on coloring. It just gets along the surface. It does make for an interesting again, it could be argued whether they add weight, so it does make for an interesting flight. It does make for an interesting plane. Um, you can do what you want, and like for some of you that play with tape, play with markers, maybe you have your ways. I just can't see myself doing it, and I don't recommend it unless you know of a way around it. In which case, hey, show me. I'll be glad to do it myself. Uh, the markers can be your friend, obviously, and I use them to code the planes most times. And again, with coding, we always worked on this. We wondered, like, okay, so if you are coding the plane, don't you need to make it so that, it's like visible to other people, visible in general? I mean, because once it's airborne, a javelin, I mean, okay, my javelins, they're a good distance away, so you're not going to tell who they belong to. My pictures have usually, and my videos have coincided with the flights you've seen as I've always known beforehand, so I know, like, oh, that's that plane. Oh, that's that plane. I'll either take an audio or a visual cue so I know which one I'm looking at. The coding just like, I mean, it always goes on a winglet or a rudder or an anhedral or something that's vertical to the wing. And because, well, it looks cool. It looks real, but in essence, like the further the plane gets away, it's like, my God, that's a cute little, where the hell does it belong? You just don't know. But I mean, any of them are good. It's going to happen with any of them, no matter how big you make it. And I mean, some planes that you build might not even have a vertical surface to put it on and look good or retain the coating that you need. So Banshee's a primary example of that. Uh, I had the hardest time with the original Banshees trying to figure out where the hell I was going to put the coating because it just didn't look good on their rudders. Now, new Banshees, Type 3s and Type 4s, it's like, oh, well, now it's sweet. But the originals, not so much. Um, but I digress. That's still not talking about the code, the coloring and stuff. And the coloring we were talking about, again, crayons, you're layering. Markers, make it wet. Pencils and crayons are probably the best way to go. Just because, again, it depends on your writing. And the colors. Well, you could look at it any one of like three ways, I think, or maybe it's just two, but you could look at it as, again, like other things that are supposed to fly through the air. You can color it like, oh, it's bright red, it's a cardinal. And in fact, I had one colored like a cardinal, just like I had one colored like a robin. But the shape doesn't, I mean, if you could see the shape, then you're like not going to be confused. I mean, it's like kind of like a capture it in your peripherals. You might think it's a bird. Why is it gliding without flapping its wings? And it won't work. The other thing, of course, is camouflaging, like typical, like to your surroundings. Um, and it's something we delved in before. We were talking about how, depending on the role, depends on how you camouflage the birds. If it flies, if it's supposed to spend its time flying above your head, yeah, you're probably gonna camouflage it like at least some sky colors. And then do you even give a crap if it's like a cloudy sky versus a clear sky versus a partly cloudy sky? Um, Obviously white and blue camouflage with ombre colors in it, it probably looks pretty good. Probably looks pretty cool. I hope I'm coming across good because I'm trying another with a filter too. But anyway, too late now. I'm in it. Um, there's we liked a lot to look at from planes like ground attack planes in real life. They have a tendency to be, well, I mean, if it's like modern day air forces, they just usually use shades of gray. But it's universal because I mean, they face each other in dogfighting. We don't do that, and we're all standing on the ground, so we're always looking up. So it's a matter of if it's a plane you're always going to see from the bottom, and it's always above your head. You may want to color it in the shades of blue or gray or white or a combination. Um, is there a color, a blue, white, gray out there? I don't know. It isn't a crayon, but you can play with it. You can use counter shading. Counter shading is semi-effective. Of course, you don't know. Again, you're not really dogfighting, so it doesn't really matter if the plane's coming towards you or away from you, and you're kind of probably not going to be able to mask that entirely. I've had some planes where typically what you think of again when a ground attack is like, okay, if you actually see the top of it, and chances are you're probably not going to see the top of it often, but it might flip. So and what me and NASA's talked about in one of the earlier ones is if it's flipping at eye level away from you, somewhere away, say 15 to 30 yards away, and flipping, if you're at a place where your backdrop is more buildings, houses, you may want to, again, you may want to do some dazzle, you may want to do some counter shading. So there's browns, grays, blues, depending on the buildings around you, depending on, what their sides are, with a little bit of greens tweaked in, because you'll always probably have some foliage of some sort, tree, grass, bush, shrubbery. Uh, but you're not, sorry to be doing that, shouldn't be doing that a lot. Anyway, but you're not, a dazzle, I don't think dazzle is effective because you're just dealing with something flying through the air and it's like not flapping its wings. So unless you can truly make it look like a bird or it's truly invisible with your plastic sheets, then there's no real good way of going about it. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, ultimately, the reason I want to talk about, I love touching base on this one because I've seen pictures of people like that do planes either intentionally or unintentionally have a color scheme to them. And it's either because their paper is bright, their paper is dull, they don't use white, or they fold it in such a way that like colors stand out. With my Babies R Us sheet right here, I love these. I don't know what they're made out of. It's not like it's typical Xerox paper though. That's why I hang on to them. Whatever it is, maybe it's the coloring. They're like stronger or something. So they've made really good planes in the past. So I keep these around. But like if you have one, and if any one of y'all have seen like I showed, like if you go through a CopyFact scanner, a scanning machine, and you just hit the scan with nothing on the scan top, right? What is it going to come up with? A black sheet. So you're going to have a black plane. Does that work good? Not really. I mean, again, you're still seeing a black triangle, blended body, wing, whatever it is you're flying. You see it flying through the air. It's actually almost more noticeable than anything else. Hell, the white probably works better, especially when it's cloudy. And I've had some planes like the foil, like we talked about before, the single foil. Boy, foil can get invisible. If you catch it on a flash, the sun flashing off the foil, obviously, highly visible. But there are certain angles when it's just the true silver because it doesn't catch. Man, it's practically invisible. Again, something you should try to see. Play with play with the material of the building and then play with the flight. You could tell it's crazy. It really is. But why I was getting into it is because I have the sheet here. I don't make many purchases because once again our hobby has a tendency to stay really. It's a cheap hobby. It's an easy hobby. It's an art. It's cheap and easy art. It's however cheap and easy you wish to make it though, and I typically don't spend money on it, and I definitely like to recycle. But in this case, I had to splurge and get this, and if you can see. It is a sheet of paper that looks like a yard. I have not built a plane out of this yet because I'm deathly scared. I'm really going to lose this in the yard, but you see, the point being to something like this here, of course, is, I mean, dude, it sells itself. I mean, my gosh, if I were to take this one out there and land it in the yard, would I find it? Damn sure, I don't know. You're going to hit the counter shade to get rid of all the like your folds and stuff like that, but this would be, along with the invisible, probably one of the primary ultimate. I also have ultimate shading, ultimate camouflage. I also have pads of paper that actually have like clouds imprinted on them. Not as good. I mean, it's nice to have a sky backdrop, but it's also like the viewpoint of you being really far away. So what's the point of that? I mean, you don't have a panoramic perspective of the sky above you per se. Like what I mean is you do, okay? Your visual acuity when you step outside, you have, it's whatever your eyes can see. But when you see a certain little something that's only this big that also has like that whole perspective on this size sheet, you got a problem. It's not like it looks like one cloud. It looks like the sky, the broad sky, and that's not really. I don't really see that as being the greatest camouflage. It's the colors are good, and the idea is sound, but it's one of the reasons I haven't brought myself to make a plane out of those either. But that's coming. That's coming. I'm gonna do that this year, probably with some of the one-a-days because I gotta test it. I gotta ultimately make one out of this. And this is too like I got this at a hobby store. It's It's green grass from Recollections, which I believe is, I want to say Michael's. Could be Hobby Lobby. One or the other. It doesn't matter. You can get them from any place. Go and get you one. I'm going to take this part here because this piece is like got ripped up at the top, and I might make one out of this today. Probably not because I'm scared of it. But these pieces, if you've got them, they are of a thicker mill, thicker bond than others. It's thicker in general. It's really big. You can hear it. It doesn't sound like the zero. I mean, three Xerox papers, three copy papers don't sound like this. So I'm holding it up over here like you guys can hear it, and the mic is at my face. I don't know, whatever. But in any case, it's different. Okay, ultimately, and you're not trying to. If you're after a ground attack plane, you're not trying to mask that, and as you can see, it doesn't carry over to both sides. So focus. So it's like, okay, so there's white, and when I fold it, there's probably going to be white. So is flash white good? I don't know. Flash white might not be good, but I have crayons for that. So we'll see how that turns out. I'll probably end up, if whatever plane this is, and this is like I think it is a perfect 12 by 12 square. So, yeah, that Mark, you can make ninja out of this. Wait, no, no, Akron. But you know what I mean. I know it wasn't ninja. I did it on purpose. Shut up. I know what I'm talking about. Don't make me laugh. Okay, so like it's still a perfect square. So you obviously you can build whatever you want, but you could cut and get your rectangle out of it because you have your 12, so you can get an 8.5 by 12 out of it, or a 9 by 12. Whatever sheet you choose to use out of this. I was thinking like if I make it out of grass. Again, we have a tendency to think like, okay, it's going to be a ground attack support plane of some sort, some short range, looking down. You're standing up, you look down on it. It's going to be close to the enemy. I understand this topic too is kind of like unnecessary for you guys who aren't quote unquote combating necessarily in the Corps, but if you're interested, this is how we do this. There's a little flower in here. It looks like a popcorn kernel. Somebody dropped something. They made this. It's all messed up. Anyway, they also got it out of focus, so this is all blurry at the top. How dare you guys? Anyways. So, yeah. On the camouflage note, that's what it is. You can spend money on it. I did. Paper's relatively cheap, even though it's relatively expensive, especially if all you're going to do is just fold it. Can you justify that? I don't know. I got money to burn. I got paper to build. Let's go. I don't know. I'm not really justifying going out there and buying sheets just to do this sort of thing, but it was kind of cool and on a whim and so on and so forth. So I did it. I mean, what the hell, right? Do it. Why not? Regular paper in flight is probably fine. And I've seen videos. I've flown with you guys. I've seen videos of you guys. Obviously, for the most part, come on, let's face it, we don't really care. But if you do take the time when you're out there with your plane, with others' planes, and if you're watching videos, and you try to see, I mean, if you're flying with them or watching the videos, if you try to keep track of their planes and go like, wow, that thing was almost invisible right there, and you know what makes it invisible. Is it like the fact that it's white? Is it because it caught the sun the right way? Is it because it didn't catch the sun? Is it because it went through the tree? I mean, various reasons and things. You know, it just, when you think about them, when you take the time to note those possibilities, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder what mine would be like if I did that. That's how it got me to make ones that were colored like birds. You'll notice that a lot of times if any of you guys have in your possession or read, rented, whatever, paper aircraft literature before, I don't know if you have. I've got a lot of it. Almost, first of all, one of the things that makes a good paper airplane book, of course, is being able to build the paper airplanes. Just about every book that you might have ever seen, and even if you can imagine you've never seen it and still looked for it, there seems to be a general like pattern for them, and it's like, first of all, we describe why planes work, how to fly, why planes work, and then here's my planes, here's how to build them. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a a template to follow, and or your publisher just tells you, look, you better do it this way because it sells. La-di freaking da. Well, okay, that may be the case, but um, 9 times out of 10, when you get those books, they also have like the paper in there, and typically it has a pattern. And that pattern may or may not be colored, and if it's not colored, they typically expect you to color it. I don't ever know what it is they expect you to color it with. They never really specify. Just like color this and pattern it however you want. Again, if you use markers, you're going to have a bad time. Uh, I I've had bad times. I don't know if that's really. I mean, like seriously, I don't know if you should try coloring them just because they do it. And I like the fact that like I mean I don't know. I haven't actually. What's up, Robert? I haven't actually painted them, colored them myself. Like I haven't done my patterns. I couldn't print my patterns. I would have to literally make a plane, take it apart, figure out where everything was, color that, and then reapply it. So it's like, oh, where's it going to come out? I would love to know how they do that stuff in books where they have the patterns at the ready. Obviously, they've taken one apart, but I mean, like, man, it's got to be go through, backing up through everything to do all of that. Like take it apart, get it on the fold lines, and like, well, here's a line here and here's a line here. Man, I wouldn't mind just having pinstripes on them, but let's not go there. That's damn near impossible too. So, how you doing, man? You ain't been in a couple days, a couple weeks. Ain't seen. Well, hell, it's been a month now, just about. Hanging in over there, staying out of trouble, getting ready to eat some meat, some bird. I totally meant to actually. I might take you along on a little bit of a clicky click. Like, go figure out what the hell is going on with a partner of ours. Um, yeah, I was getting into it with the camouflage here, just like I said, saying, like, why, how, what's this about? Having this stuff. And talking about taper, of course, because it comes with the color. Would you go to the Gmail? Yeah, food. Yeah. I did a stupid because I honestly didn't know whether or not. I have to admit I kind of wussed out a little bit. I only a little bit. Some of the radio talk was saying about like how, reiterating some of the things on the internet. Try not to go out this Thanksgiving. Don't be getting along with family. And I was like, the hell you say what? Anyway, so we are gonna do it, but I almost wussed out. That's what I'm saying. Like I was like, man, if I got together with the family, I'm the only one who's been steadily working during this whole damn thing, so I've probably been more exposed than any of the rest of my family members. And I was very seriously considering to say like, screw it, I'm not gonna go because I don't want to be the one that gets everybody else infected. And then I'm like, well, who knows? I could probably end up giving me the flu out of this before I give them COVID. So screw it, I'm going. Plus the fact that I've recently been checked and don't have it. I mean, not as recently as yesterday, but whatever. You know how it is. Don't really give a crap. I don't think I've got it. Don't feel bad. Maybe it's sitting in me waiting to get used. I don't know. I don't know. But what I mean by wussing out, though, is I actually bought a turkey breast 2 days ago, just in case I did decide to wuss out over the weekend. And I was like, well, I know my sister's going to make the bird this year. And just in case I was not going to go and make the bird, I'm going to get a breast. That way there's turkey. Because seriously, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have the turkey on hand. Like, turkey, for the rest of the damn year, turkey is like a sandwich meat. Seriously. I don't know if you guys are like that. But, like, dude, I'm not gonna eat a bird. I don't get a bird. It's like you don't think about getting the whole fucking bird until November. Well, I did this shit again, but so we finally decided we're gonna go, and we ended up cooking the damn turkey last night. So now I've had turkey 2 nights in a row, and I'm gonna have it tomorrow, and I'll probably have leftovers the next day. So call me a gobbler for frick's sake. I swear to God, dude. This was dumb. So in other words, like I got the turkey, full intent to freeze it and then like have it say in December, January, and no. That's what happens is you get past month after month after month, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, like pretty soon 6 months going on, we ain't had a turkey. I don't understand. They're always there for sale. But what do you think of, if you're a meat eater, what do you think of with the three? You pick the big three, you think of like pork, beef, and some of y'all might think fish. I shouldn't say the big three, but some of y'all might think fish. What do you think? Pork, beef, poultry. Um, I usually, yeah, it's usually beef, poultry, and pork. But I always like to have my fish too. So it's never turkey, even though it's poultry. Your poultry is primarily duck or chicken. It's like, what the hell? Anyway, I don't know. I'm getting into it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't mean to do that. It's just like, damn it, I want turkey. And now I seem to make it all up in 1 week. I'm buying a freaking turkey like February 1st. Screw this.
Anyway,
Thanksgiving rant done. Yeah, no, right, Robert. Sorry. Yes, you're right. It is easier to lose it when it's like this. And that's what I like earlier on. That's what I was kind of discussing about it. Was like, okay, yeah. Um, I'd like to think that if you're the one throwing it, you have a better chance of keeping track of it as opposed to the other person who's like out there in the field and was
distracted with something. You know, I mean, I don't know what.
it could be just looking for their plane. It could be building another plane. It could be repairing damage. It could be anything. Okay, but if they're not looking for it and you throw it while they're not looking, somebody might say, "Heads up, there's a plane in the air." But like, if you don't know what to expect and it's sky camouflage,
You may not see it.
um, the human eye is a weird thing, and everybody acts differently. So the camouflage might work for one person, it might not work for the next. And you could always play with your enemy too, just because you could always use 10 planes, 10 different ways of going at it, counter shading, the camouflage, the true camouflage, whatever, or just the fact that it's like made out of clear plastic paper. And obviously, I think clear plastic paper is the best. It's just that going back to also the caveat of how much are you willing to spend on this art? You know, I mean, are you just like, I'm going to go buy a whole bunch of sheet protectors just so I can turn them into planes? Yes, I've done that. I have a box of them now. But but like for real, like you can't justify that all the time because they instantly become the most expensive plane out there. And just like that, if you lose them, boy, it's not a matter of okay, you, those are pretty much weatherproof. So leaving them outside, typically no problems. They do actually curl, tape stuff like that. But I know I've lost a bunch myself. I mean, but see, I've lost more, just as many, if not more, with freaking white paper than I have with camouflage. Like it's also just a matter of it's not a matter of like visually losing it. It's a matter of I can't get it. It's dead. Screw it. Um, and those paper, like I said, like you're gonna spend money on sheet protectors to make it invisible. Holy garbage! It's like those things are that's really pricey. So I mean, for something like this, I mean, no, in the long run, this is not pricey. But what I'm saying is, if you're used to a hobby that like occasionally you have to feed your tape, staple, and paper, paper is usually easily accessible. Tape, not so much. You probably have to buy it. But I mean, like if you have to feed your tape demon after a while, that's about the only thing you're spending money on. That's usually a little bit more justifiable than, baby, I gotta go buy some plastic. I need $20. $20 to build planes. I mean, for real. And the plastic, not only that, but the plastic isn't like recyclable. It's not like you can write on it and say like, okay, I'm done. Now it can be a plane. Not like paper. So again, it's all in a matter of how much you want to spend. A lot of the times our Oriental brethren who fly the origami, who fly or don't even fly origami, just fly regular planes. If you look on their videos and see them, they build planes out of balsa wood and cardstock paper that they have a name for. And again, look it up. It's out there. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. You know, I'd be more prepared for these shows. Yeah, I think though that probably costs money for them too. Uh, it's like I said, it just depends on how much you want to put it in. I kind of like keeping it basic because I kind of like seeing what I can get out of the most basic. That's actually more fun. You know what? That's why I tweak like crazy. I did see the video. I did see the video. I've been seeing a bunch of your videos. It was kind of cool. Because, well, I mean, through the messaging, remember I asked you if you put up that video on, or you were going to put up on the video on the instructions for the one. So, and then, yeah, you had Zymus, fuck. You know what, we both know what I mean. So, yeah. Oh, it's cool. I eventually am going to do something where it's a little bit more formal on my official page. I meant to do that actually with the ones that I've already produced. And they suck. But now that I'm playing around and learning more, I'm probably going to do a little bit more with them, so they'll make it a little bit better. It really was. Yeah, you're right. It really was. And the ones that like, okay, see, true invisibility, true stealth. This is also a topic that I brought up, and this was probably before the time of our show starts. But I had actually done a paper on this. I mean, dude, seriously, like I think in my college days, I think we actually did a paper on the feasibility and how to make paper airplanes truly stealth and to what level they were stealthy because paper airplanes already are stealthy inherent just by being paper planes. Um, Now, if you're going by real world, real life stealth, they're talking about something that bounces back radar waves, and true stealth, of course, doesn't bounce them back, so you can't see it as well. It comes out as anything but an aircraft. Well, paper doesn't reflect radar waves, so obviously, if you're just talking about real life, they are invisible because radar's never going to pick them up. Then we went in depth. I can't remember. It was me and a classmate, and like I did take this back to the IVPAC members at this point, and we were talking about, okay, let's delve deeper though. Okay, obviously radar, it's a pretty solid test. Radar waves are going to pass through paper. Sound waves. What if you use like sonar? Sonar's not effective through the air anyway. But sound waves probably going to probably be a little bit more reflective when you think about it. Just because if you've ever actually I mean, literally, you speak and hold up a sheet of paper in front of you, it reflects back to you. So, in the crudest of terms, sound is more reflective. But again, this is like going back to our other last week's topic about like how are putting cameras and lights and stuff like that on planes. Are you ever truly gonna like roll out a mobile sonar station and see if you could like track a plane with it? No, you're probably not. You're probably not going to do it with radar either. So that's all out. Basically, it's just visual stealth. And that comes down to, like, Robert, like you're talking about, like, you use, I don't want to say invisible sheets, because, they're not truly invisible. You could see them, they're there. But I mean more like using clear plastic paper, because that's as damn close as you're going to get. Especially if you can figure out a way to matte it, like color it in such a way that it doesn't, like, reflect light, where it's highly glossy. Because the less reflectivity in any light beams it gets on it, the less you're going to see it too. So yeah, those are like yours in that video. It truly are damn close to invisible. You better be ready or else not. So but going back to the paper, we still went deeper than that. We were also thinking about like, okay, so your home security systems. Like some of them use cameras, but they use like, as they call them, just motion sensors. What do they track when it comes to motion sensors? Are they picking up on light waves? Are they using fine revision of radar itself? What do they do? Is it any motion? How do motion sensors, like what kind of sensor, like what kind of motion do they pick up? Do they just compare the object to a random spot behind it, and if something like blocks their visual acuity of the item behind it, that sets them off? Paper planes will set that off. So in that case, like I'm thinking, we kind of decided that was the ultimate in stealth, was trying to defeat a motion sensor, because motion sensors are built to track things within a certain parameter, within a certain space. They're easily accessible. We could possibly see them in IVPAC use. You could possibly put them on a platform, take them outside, take them inside. Somebody's flying, put them out there. It sets off the alarm. You go out. Bingo. Those are the ones that were highly projected. And again, that was probably the one thing that would make, I think, what we thought would be a true stealth paper plane, as if you could beat a motion detector. Visual is one thing. But motion detectors might be able to pick up something you wouldn't. Plus the fact that that could be your true early warning system. If you have something outside, faces outside. I mean, if you're going that crazy about it, you like mounted a tree at the front of your yard, something sets it off. Be it like literally, I mean, we're talking real life applications. I mean, you're looking for a criminal that might be coming to rob your place, to something as simple as, hey man, the enemy's throwing paper planes, let's get ready, So, I think we found that was the true meaning of the stealth. Bats do use sonar, yes, of course. And they're tuned to pick up the sounds, so yes. But they also use certain wavelengths we can't hear to utilize said sonar. It's more than just the chipping they do and they fly around. They could probably pick up on paper planes. And I suppose if we were to use those sonar waves, yeah, that could. I mean, other than just throwing your voice in the air and hoping to Christ it bounces off a plane. Because again, that sort of detection that we would use, not feasible. There's no little sonar set. I don't think. I've not researched this. Y'all can prove me wrong. And hell, after the show, or maybe right now, you can go ahead and like search up now. Like, is there such a thing as a portable sonar set that if you were to fly, say, a drone or something built out of paper or something built out of balsa wood, it could actually pick up? If there is, we have a next stage. But back then we didn't. So we're basing it on that. But the motion detectors were like number one. A sonar set, if there is a manned portable sonar set that you could get that would actually throw up wavelengths and bounce off planes, I'm fairly certain it would. Because again, if you take a piece of paper and you talk to it, you hear your voice better, it's bouncing sonar waves. Um, Feasibility, if you're like, if you take it down to what it is, a paper airplane being a hobby for like a 10-year-old, you're not going to just yell until you hear it. And even if you yell and continuously yell in one direction, like you're aiming like you are your own sonar set, you're not going to hear it because the plane's too small. It's not going to reflect back, and you're never going to be able to track it. So you would need the device. I'm just thinking the set would be too expensive to bother with, but it is potentially it could you could do that. The other one was infrared. Um, it's probably also falls under that same thing. It could be done. Paper, obviously pretty cool. It's pretty porous, pretty fibrous. Air, it's flying through the air and it doesn't have a heat source of its own. And this is where the trickery lies. Obviously, again, you could kind of base it, although it could be argued nowadays that the handheld or as they were headset infrared goggles are a little bit more easy to get and a lot cheaper, so it could be done. I don't exactly know what kind of situation you would need to try to launch a plane and avoid infrared attack, but this was discussed back then. So like I said, I'm just bringing up all the topics, and we did find out technically it could be something. I think like I mean back when we did it, the military did have infrared goggles. They were pricey as hell for civilian life, but they did have them. So it was feasible. And believe it or not, paper airplanes do have an infrared signature. It would depend on. We did the research, and again, it was like, okay, it's not like you probably have to have, probably wouldn't be in the realm of the typical civilian headset that you could throw on, but like the seeker eyeball held in, like, say, an infrared missile, that you could like tone down the micron band to such a low extent that if you're holding the plane, the sensor eye would pick up the heat residue left over by where you held it. If you just got finished folding it, tape can hold heat in. If there was something underneath it where the nose is and you finished taping it, it would hold heat in, especially if you continuously held it for a while, especially if it was cooler air outside. And again, this had to do with the like setting the sensitivity of the micron band of the infrared eye. If it's low enough, yeah, you probably could pick up paper planes. But would it be, again, feasible? Because would you be able to go and get a headset readily available to the civilians that would be sensitive enough to pick these up? Probably not. I mean, we're talking, it literally is in the thousandths of the micron band. I think it'd have to be 0.018 before you actually pick them up. And I mean, that's like hypersensitive. I don't, the cooled eyes in heat seekers or missiles don't have to be, I mean, dude, like literally it's upwards of the single digits. It's like 7 to 12 and you're picking up like even non-afterburning engines. That's obvious. Turbofan, like high bypass turbofans end up in like the low end of that spectrum, 6 to 7 microns. So you're talking 0.018 for something that's paper. It can be done, and there are infrared sets sensitive like that, but feasible economically and physically, I don't know. I don't know if it's there. It's within the realm of possibility, but Not right now. I don't think so. But for our topic, saying that it was a stealth plane due to its infrared stealth, I'd give it a yes because of that, just alone. You could track it, but you'd have to spend so much money, it just isn't worth to track it. And I mean, this is going beyond the hobby and going into the science fiction world, but um, yeah, you could say the same comment for that one. We will probably never know. It's just not worth it, man. It's just not worth it. So, so anyway, so stealth. I think it thanks to the media, it became a popular word to throw out for anything. Like seriously, like oh, it's stealth. Like I mean, for some reason, and I used to, seriously because I've followed planes my whole life. I mean, soon. I've actually got a couple of videos I need to post up. I'm sorry, I've neglected that. I do have a couple of flight videos out there. And I've gotten some flights outside recently. I just haven't videoed them. I don't video every flight. I like to, but I mean, sometimes it's not available. Plus the fact that I really want a third person perspective. Sometimes the first person perspective just isn't juicy enough. You know what I mean? Hell, I wouldn't mind just leaving the damn camera out in the tripod in the middle and throw at it or around it so it picks up a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna go that route eventually, but just not right now. Anyway, stealth got thrown out in such a way, like I used to cringe when I heard like it's the F-117 stealth. On the stealth, like the stealth. No, dude. No, that's an improper usage of the word to the extreme. You sound like a retard. And sorry. You have to be tarded. But I mean, really, you sounded like you were like dunce. Don't do that. It's not. I mean, you don't just throw that word out there. There are reasons why you use it. And again, you want to call a paper plane stealth? Well, they all are. Every single one of them is. Radar's not going to pick them up. But unless you did the true tests, and I consider the true tests, I mean, not because I did it, but just because you go through the full spectrum. Can it pass through and not be detected by the visual eye, the unaided eye through the infrared spectrum, the unaided eye through the radar and sonar spectrums? I mean, you have to pass through all that, then you can be considered stealth. I mean, like I said, it just got so overused. It's like freaking Sweet Child of Mine on the radio. It's just overplayed, man. Yeesh. Hey, my flight videos come a little bit more often than Ben. Ben doesn't, boy, Ben's got a couple good ones out there, but like seriously, that's it, How many videos are on our channel here and my channel? Like there's a good 40 or 50. And yeah, I got to pop a couple more up there. But yeah, I mean, come on now. I don't even like to put up like 30-minute videos of flying because it's cool and all, but like I'd rather have the snippets so you kind of have the breakdown of like the time when I went out and actually described the rolls. I brought different planes out, but I threw them at different ranges so you could see them. But then I still like to go through and like, okay, Wasp is flying today, Nova's flying tomorrow, or even the next hour if I'm outside. The first hour dedicated to the Wasp. The next hour we're dedicating it to Nova. The next hour I'm dedicating it to something else. I'm not going to record that whole hour, not because there's crappy flights in there, just because, why? I'm not going to record the bleed over either, because I don't know. I don't like the confusion. It's not like a show. They're sorties. I'm going out there and flying and whatever. I mean, and this is why I also don't, sometimes I piss myself off when I go out there with the camera and I do the videos, and I'm like, am I out here to fly or am I out here to take pictures? I mean, yeah, I want to do both, but it's like, dude, you can't. I don't want to concentrate on one and forget the other, So that's why I have my days. But I will get my videos posted up. I have to remember to actually do that probably after this show. I should do that because I do have a couple available that I did earlier this year. I don't usually post the indoors, and I hate doing it with my phone. I'll do it with my phone as a last resort. I understand phones nowadays, but yeah, I don't like doing it with my phone. That's why y'all enjoyed my phone one when I did the phone one before, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I'll get some more videos posted up. We need more out of the other group though. Like, I mean, yeah, you said Y13. It'd be really cool to see some more of his. Eagerly anticipating NASA's flights. He's probably in, besides you, Robert, he's probably in one of the better places to fly besides of all the rain he gets. Like, apparently he's living in Bangladesh. like where it rains, every other hour. Uh, so like I expect like that's why OAE like okay, dude. I mean, you guys, come on now. You guys fly. Actually, I'm not sure. Ben said he's in Texas, right? Is Y13 in Texas? I actually don't remember. I just don't remember from looking. But I mean, like,
They guys seem to have some pretty good weather there, whenever they fly. I mean,
I know that's kind of a Durr moment. You're not going to go flying when it's like, hey, it's windy and rainy and damn, good day to fly. Let's go out there. You don't say that, but you can if you got plastic planes. You can if you tapered it the hell up. I don't know. Sometimes the clouds make for good backdrops of the photos, and sometimes a clear blue day makes a good backdrop for photos. I'll tell you what, if you got planes that are colored, the blue sky looks really cool. But if you got planes that are white, cloudy days are really cool. Even though you may actually play a game of flying a plane in the picture, it's pretty good. Um, and we got ideas that we were talking about with something like that too. So, it's not just going to be that. I know, that's the thing. And remember what you and I were showing each other about, like, the cameras? Like, you showed me that, what was it? Was it a shirt, a harness? Did you put the camera on yourself, on your person? Kind of like, like cop, body mounted cameras.
and I said, like, get that hat.
It's got, you mount a GoPro on a hat.
I got that hat.
Um, I don't know why. I have no excuse. I haven't tried that thing out yet. I need to try that thing out because that's probably, I think that's the best. Like, okay, you're filming it. You don't have, yeah, like, you don't film it right when you're videoing it because, of course, you got the camera in one hand and every damn camera in the world's built for a right-handed person, so your freaking shutter release is on the right side. Well, gee, that's my throwing side. If you're a lefty, maybe you got it better, but also, you know as well as I do that your throwing motion is limited when you got something sensitive on your other hand. Whether you leave it dangling on your damn chest or you're holding it in your hand, which I always do, it's like my throwing motion is more limited. So it takes more, I mean, like phases I can get a pretty, but I'm not trying to be videoing every single freaking phase flight and that's it. I want a Banshee flight. I want a Javelin flight. Javelins are, like, you will never get too many Javelin videos. Because, A, they're kind of boring. They just go straight up and down. B, it's just hard to, like, it's not, well, that's it. It's kind of boring. It's straight up and straight down. Woohoo! It's kind of cool to see him go far. And if I need a good length description for you, so it's like, hey, this one's going 50 yards out. There you go, Javelin. Yeah. But yeah, like I thought the hat was a cool idea because again, like, okay, no hands, can just concentrate on the throw, and I'm already spending the time watching the plane anyway, wearing a hat. Whatever's on the hat will watch with me. Boom. I mean, it might not be the greatest, but I figure as long as it's like in the 35 mil frame, what is close to the regular set in a camera and what we see, so actually probably about a 50 mil frame. As long as it takes in about a 50 mil frame, it should get everything. The only thing would be to worry about is whether or not it's a cute little dot or not. Now see, that's another reason why, like, and why I hate videoing with phones. Okay, yeah, they can do pretty good until you have to zoom. Then they absolutely fucking suck. And I'd rather have like a video camera or a DSLR or something I can zoom on the fly and it's still an optical zoom and there's less sky and more plane. Because after a while with the damn camera like I did, it's like, wow, it's a cute little fuzzy dot. What the hell is that? That could be a bird. That could be a pine cone. I just got hit in the head with a pine cone. Whatever. I don't know. That's why I don't use them. And I hate that stupid vertical. Like, some of y'all take the time to edit it and make it look cool. I appreciate that. Some of y'all reorientate it so it's like landscape, which is what it should be, because why the hell would you take a video on a phone, hold the damn sumbitch upright so it looks like the monolith, a vertical bar, up and down, when everybody's got a widescreen TV? Do any of y'all have a TV that you flip vertically? You take your widescreen and then turn it up 90 degrees. And so, like, I video with my phone. I want to watch all the videos this way. Do any of y'all do that? Because that'd be like the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. You video with the phone on a widescreen TV. So then you got these, it's like you split your screen into thirds. You got a black bar, the video, a black bar. I'm not entirely sure that these furthering generations are getting smarter. It just seems like they're getting dumber and dumber. Like you can go and you will spend megabucks on your smartphone so you can watch videos on a postage stamp, and yet you have an 85-inch TV in the house so you can watch videos. Where logic, please? Somebody? Anybody? Anybody got some logic to this? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I like being able to zoom on the flies. And again, with your digital zoom, the moment you use it, the image is destroyed. So you're limited to your field of view, and of course, once the plane gets out of your field of view, it's just a cute little fuzzy dot that you can barely track, and everybody's like, "Huh, where's that? Is that it? I can't see it." But at least with the optical zoom, you can kind of keep track, or you can change your lens, know what you're looking for, where you're at, and again, that all depends on the plane you're flying. Um, which again is a good reason to have it, because if you're test flying something, if you're flying something you're not quite used to yet, like a new design's coming out, you've only had a few flights with it, you don't know what it's going to do yet. I mean, a phase, something you're used to. I've been flying that bastard for 20 years. I know what it's going to do. I know where to aim the camera. I can zoom in on it. I'll still capture it, and it'll probably even be centered. And I mean, just, again, that's why I like having a wide variety of planes, because I need some puppies that are going to be predictable and some that aren't. So they make these good shots through the air. But yeah, it's not worth it. I mean, yeah, some of the phones do, but I mean, dude, seriously, I mean, every phone is never going to have as good of a zoom as a camera does. None. Because you just don't have the cylindrical play back and forth. I mean, true cameras, you've seen them, like a lens is this big, and a zoom, like if you have a zoom lens, you can actually extend it, and that's optical. The lens travels that far. Well, a phone's this thick. How far is that lens going to travel, really? You ain't going to have much play. It's not going to look that good. You can have a whole bunch of, all they use is cheater software. It's digital software built into the phone that actually tries to take out, and I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, it does a hell of a good job. I ain't saying that, but it's still like, it's because they know all these people are using this because it's a bunch of fucktards. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I mean, I know you understand. I'm not, it's a little bit of a rant, and that, but only on myself, because I hate using my phone for that. I mean, dude, I'm not saying I'm using my camera, I'm using my phone. How silly do you sound? I gotta use my phone to take a picture. No, I have a camera for that. It's good when it's, yeah, there's obviously times when it comes in handy. I'm not going to argue the fact about that. There's pros and cons. It's just, for me, the cons are too great. And spend $2,000 on my camera to use a stupid phone. Anyway, um, but using a little segue on that with the topic we were going on though, um, the further out that little fuzzy dot is, the camouflage is a little bit more effective. You have a little blue on action on that sky, and at that distance, you're like, where'd it go? Now, of course, if we're trying to do our videos here, and I make that same dot, and it's like, well, I can't see it. I can't. Then the camera worked. Dude, that's why I did IVPAC. I did IVPAC almost exclusively for that. I know we haven't done the meetup yet. Like, well, you haven't been part of it. We've had the meetups. I mean, like, NASA, KIA, missile. Any of you guys are out there, you could attest, because we've flown together. Me, Pharaoh, and Gent have also flown together, along with Sin, God rest his soul. Like we've had, like I've been through some fly-offs. I've been through a battle, But like, I mean, ideally it would be, like get together for an exercise or something like that, where we like, like throw some sorties against each other. You bring your strikers, I'll bring my interceptors, and we see if I can shoot you down and reverse the play. That's what like I developed. What Copeland had done was, develop our first, the paces, as we call it, which is like, we call it Red Man, call it paces. It's Top Gun. It's like where we send planes to, so we can shoot each other down and practice shooting each other down. For those times in battle, it's fun. It's fun when you get together to do stuff like that. And yeah, that's what I picture. It's like, hey man, let's If we got 100 people and we could rent out an arena or a stadium, everybody chips in $10. Hey, can we borrow this thing for the weekend? You're not using it. Let's use it. Close the dome. Let's get in there. Let's fly some planes. Because I've always wanted. I mean, I've flown in a couple stadiums before, and plenty of warehouses. Um, but like, I mean, I admit I still don't like controlled environments, but there's an appeal there. And I see these dudes in Japan that always throw up their videos. They get inside like their domes and just throw them around, and man, it looks cool. I imagine like some of ours would probably do a hell of a lot better in a controlled. If they could, I don't know what everybody's take is. Is like, do you feel like if it does good inside, it'll do good outside, or do you feel if it does good outside, it'll do good inside? Because that's my line of thinking. My line of thinking is if it flies good inside, it'll or outside, it'll do good inside. Because I have found too many of my planes that's like if they do good inside, they'll do good outside. No, 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 no. The intangibles of wind and thermals and down bursts are just and micros in a micro world, not like reality, like a microburst of rain, obviously, but like the paper plane is susceptible to so much more air currents that we can't see or feel. And if you're in a controlled environment, sure, those same air currents are there, but they're present in a uniform way because, like a stadium, of course,
Is got a shape, so whatever the wind is doing,
it's always doing that. It might be doing it at a faster or slower speed. It's always doing the same thing, though. So it truly is a controlled environment.
so I do not believe in that. And I mean, I don't ever design a plane.
Although I used to, and we talked about also like designing planes that would be good for flight inside versus planes that would be good for flight outside. And you can see it firsthand because some of you guys, if you have like a support plane or an attack plane, I mean, okay, a true stunter, it doesn't. Stunters don't ever seem to care where they're at. But gliders, if you even add an attack plane that has a slightly glide profile, something that would be equivalent of a dogfighter, so it can go a pretty good distance away from you, but it still adds some loops to the flight. Those planes, those are really on the bubble of whether or not they're going to perform in one environment or the other. You can't necessarily take that outside after they've been good inside, or vice versa. But chances are, really, it's like they fly really good outside. You take them outside, they just. I mean, seriously,
that's what happens to me a lot of the times with those birds.
They're really good inside because of the controlled air. Then when they get out in the all unpredictable air, and they're truly unpredictable, and they don't fly nearly as good. So, I mean, I almost kind of frown upon even going after like a Guinness World Record for that reason. And I'd like to think that um, with some minor tweaks, we'd have planes. Any one of us would have planes that would do really, really good inside because of what they could do outside. Venom, in my case, Venom and Phase, easily. I'll take those inside. I'll probably crush some distance with some of those. I'd have to really get the best out of them. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I were to build 20 phases, at least 14 of them are going to fly really freaking good. And Venom needs work. But, you know, Nova the same way. I've got Nova to the point now where I trust Nova enough that, like, I'd probably say the same thing. I took 20 of them. 14 of them are going to fly to impress. So, would they be record beaters? I don't know. Probably not. Because they're not designed exactly for phases, maybe. They got some pretty good balance. But they're not designed for like exactly what it is to throwing a record. And again, we talked about, kind of touched on it last week, kind of touched on it like about a month and a half ago when NASA was still with us before his industry lockdown. Just fucking sucks. Fucking sucks. Fuck. It's like the ultimate plane, I think, would be, and actually, yeah, last week too, me and Ben were discussing it. It's like, I'm pretty sure it would have to be a snub nose. It's almost, because if you look back and seen whoever has held the record, it's usually been a shorter plane. It doesn't really have too much of a pointed nose at all. It might have a nose, but like the wing doesn't have a big chord in the front. It's usually broad. There's a pretty good amount of weight, but your center of gravity has probably got to at least be anywhere from the 1/4 to 1/3 of the front, from the front. There's certain set of parameters,
and you'll know it when you have it.
You'll see it. You'll feel it. You can tell. I mean, a Venom definitely. I don't know, but
And Nessus can attest to this.
um, Venom is built in that way. Like it's a snub nose with just the slightest amount of a sweep back, and then a broad wing um, with like nothing to the back. There's a lot of lift over the course of the entire body with a lot of stability, which is also crucial. You have to have that too. You can't have your plane wasting any kinetic energy on a wobble.
And a lot of my phases do that because a lot of the phases actually like to have their wings wide. And by that I don't mean like
Not WIDE. I mean like the letter Y, apostrophe D.
they like to have a Y shape. And that allows for a wobble because the air doesn't, it's not trapped in a box. It's trapped more in an angle and they wobble a lot. Um,
It doesn't seem to hurt them that much because they're long. That's actually what helps them out. But I'm thinking like some plane like that a little bit more. You trim off more of that front end. But again, thinking back to what we said, like ideally be something that if you had like a pointed nose
at takeoff to get up to altitude, got a lot of heavy weight to get it way up there.
and somehow, some way, once it reaches altitude, it dispenses with that nose and it turns into a snub nose for a glide down. So that there's like this almost the snub nose it's like there's a lot less of a sweep, so it doesn't want to come down as fast. So there's a lot more lift, almost as much in the front as in the back. Obviously, like you think about a flying wing where the chord is almost constant and the ratio is like just so because the tips are only slightly more narrow. Your chord is only shallow. Yeah, but if you've noticed through many of these flights, anybody that's got flying wing flight videos,
Seriously, you've seen them. They don't really last that long.
they're good flights. They just don't last that long. I mean, again, you're talking, you got to get upwards of 17 seconds for duration. You got to get upwards of 100 yards for distance. And while the wings are good, they're not that good. So, okay, cool. I look forward to that. The rubber band launch, yeah, dude, I look forward to that. I built another one with a hitch in it. You'd be proud of me. I put another another paperclip hitch in there.
I need to do more of the paper hitches, really. I need to stop with this stupid paper clipping.
And go with because I find that paperclip hitch, while it's really cool, adds nice structure, it also adds too much weight, and it grabs the rubber band so well that it sometimes doesn't let go. I just need to make that neat little notch as either an integral part or just like an add-on part that catches it and be done with it.
Or something that could detach. Makes it even better. But yeah, no, it's making those, yeah, you're right. It's pretty easy to do. I mean,
The trick is finding the delicate balance.
I mean, literally, it is a delicate balance.
You have to find the right weight distribution throughout the entire length and width of the plane, and you have to find the proper area to put the center of gravity. You can't just willy-nilly like build your basic plane and then lop the nose off and hope to Christ you got the right snub that you're looking for.
I mean, you can't do it that way because your chord, the wing sweep, is just too great.
I'm a firm believer it's got to be more shallow than that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a snub nose. You can actually have a nose, but I also think that the zero weight fuselage is key to that too. And that one is like something stupid. Like you guys may have thought of this. And again, you spending time where you're at, most of yours being blended bodies, you don't have as much of that problem because a lot of those are like that. Now, I mean, a lot of yours, you got a pretty good, like the nose is pretty well pointed. There's a pretty good chord from where your the lurks would be to the leading edge of the wing. And then of course, it drops off in the sweep because most of yours have that. I'm going to do an illustration here. You guys follow along if you can keep up. The blended body, a lot of them like a typical plane, your nose is pretty pointed, and then you're approaching the leading edge, the lurks here, which has its different angle than the nose or the wing, and then it comes out to here. But see, it's a different set. Like the wing starts out, this is only like about, say, 20 degrees of sweep, but this approach is like
70, and this here 90. You know, so there's 3 degrees of sweep from the nose to the wingtips. Um, Whereas it's not like typical planes, like a phase is constant. I mean, the nose doesn't count because there is no lurks. The lurks would probably be what you consider that area there, but it's constant. From the wingtip to there, it's the same. Now, interestingly enough, that's what we propose. That's what we talk about having the better plane is like you cut off the area of the lurks. That cuts a substantial amount of weight, so you have to make sure you put the weight back in the area like right about here.
Oh, good, you can actually see that. I'm not drawing scribble scrabble, but yeah, you're putting weight back into about there, just not the amount that you cut off.
And then you have
A lifting area of the wing right at that point, right there. So it starts, instead of, you got a lifting area, but you see how much you multiplied it by starting there instead of starting here where it
ends on its own, naturally.
the wing being that way and the nose being that, again, like the nose being that way is moot because you're not getting any lift from the nose. At least if you do a traditional like I'm talking about. And also what I was getting at, because again, you guys, the blended body don't suffer from it too much, but I'm talking the zero weight fuselage. And again, you guys have probably done this. And I mean, I've done this. I just didn't concentrate on the tech for a while. But like a lot of times when you build your planes, when everybody builds their planes,
and when me and NASA do the next one, if we do, I have this plan too. It's like, unless he screws this up,
we're going to do our next joint plane, and I know it's going to be, I'm going to try my best to make sure it ends up being a zero weight fuselage. I've got this in the works. I actually wrote it up already. I'm ready whenever we do one. But like the zero weight thing is like when you build your, I don't want to build it on this one. Hold on a minute. Let me get an illustration plane because I've got tons of phases ready. And I can zero weight it. This is what I was thinking. Anybody was wondering exactly what the phase 7 might end up being. The phase 7 could be a zero weight fuselage plane. I want to get the one I was pinstriping. So like a lot of people with their standard ones, if you're building a standard plane, and of course my designs, like these designs anyway, are standard. Okay. If you have these, you're dealing with the plane that, like, okay, your wing pocket fold goes all the way down to the keel in the fuselage, right? Well, I mean, it's simple enough. You see where it goes, you know, right? The leading edge, constant chord from the wingtip to the nose, the lurks, the wing, what have you. But what you're dealing with, what you have when you do the standard ones, like I said, the wing pocket goes in and folds down to the keel. Your basic fold in the middle that starts off the plane itself, right? Zero weight fuselage
takes that out.
Like, you stop the wing pocket from going down in there. It stops right here. Or you could even bring it up to just the inside lip up here at the top if you're following. Like, it would be just so. Like, literally where my fingertip is at. It would just fold over and it wouldn't go down to the keel. Or you would literally leave it on top of here, just lay it on top of the wing, and either tape it down or leave it. But that means the weight that this wing pocket is bringing inside the keel of the fuselage here would be gone. All the way up to the nose. And again, if you fold planes like this and you see it, you know that, like, obviously all your folds are going into right here. Well, no longer if you do it like this. Then the weight's up here. Now, what that gains when you're building these, what that gains is, instead of having the plane itself have gravity on the plane, the weight of the plane, fight its lift, the plane is counterbalancing that lift, counterbalancing that weight with the lift because the weight is here where it's gaining it. So it's like, Ben can explain this better than I can.
I mean, I know what it is. I know the science behind it. But like, okay, in this kind of design, the wing, not so much the anhedral because these are lifting devices, but the fuselage, the wing is providing lift for the fuselage. This is basically, I mean, it's providing stability, but it is not providing lift.
So the wings are providing lift for themselves
and then this. So if you've got a heavier weight to this, if it's longer, if it's heavier, it's shortening your flight.
Obviously you need the weight up here. That's so crucial to get it to go high, to get it to go far, to give it the potential to fly longer. So the weight is necessary. You just have to try to put it on board so it's not so much of a penalty to the wings. This is ultimately what we're trying to do here and the goal of this. I mean, obviously,
And in the case of phases, they like it. They don't seem to mind it, and it's a matter of just trimming it off little by little and notch it until I find their sweet spot and then leave it. Sometimes that requires putting a staple back into it. Sometimes that requires the holes. Um, and sometimes the holes are just there to help. But it's all a matter of weight distribution because that's, again, it doesn't have thrust. The only thrust is provided by the throwing strength of your arm. After that, it's on its own to glide. So the only thing you could do is play with the weight. The weight of the plane is crucial. You can't even stress how big enough the weight of a plane is because, again, after the throw, it gets no thrust. There's no engine. The glide is dependent completely on that. So if you're looking for a long-range glider, this is how you do it. This is how you get it. You have to get weight distribution just in the sweet spot. And the zero weight fuselage is how I think it's the best bet. For something like this, you take it out, like I said. So instead of making this a hindrance, because if you build any planes like this, it doesn't matter how good you think it is, the fuselage is a hindrance. The only thing it's doing really good for the plane is stabilizing it. Because that's where all your weight is. Now in the zero weight option, if you take these folds that you normally bring all the way down to the fuselage keel right there, if you take these folds and don't let them do that, stop them at the top of the wing, this weight is up here now. And again, that means when it's flying, the lift is hitting the weight. It'll try to keep it up. Now, I mean, it may be too much to overcome, but if you play with it, if you tweak it, if you try to cut enough of it off, you will eventually find a spot where you have got like enough lift to counterbalance the weight you put on it to give it the distance and yet go the distance. That's why NASA's was looking especially at you, that slanted nose we were working on, that little cut that we were talking about that like stopped here, instead of doing this, it went this way. That's so crucial because in a way that's a version of the zero weight fuselage. It's cutting a lot of that major weight off. And if you could put it back in, this part back in, but put it up here, which is why I typically staple them there. I'm trying to find ways to find it. I'm fairly well certain that's the way to go. Like small long balloons like underneath the body there on regular sized planes like this or even bigger ones. Hey, don't ask me. You guys should be playing with that. You and Y13, and I ain't even kidding. You guys have a blended body. All you need is a tiny little like a helium water balloon and put it inside your blended body. Like leave the nozzle out, as it were, the end of the balloon, leave it out, fill it, and then twisty tie it up, tape it off, and then inside your body you have helium. Fly it like that. I mean, dude, I can do it with this, but seriously, that's the point. I mean, you already, if I were to do that, even if I was saying like hot dog shaped, pencil shaped, I mean, yeah, okay, helium would get them up and everything like that, but I don't think I would want it to be the length of the plane. They would just need to be little cylinders that are about right here, and little cylinders, because even their shape is already providing drag. Whereas you guys having it in the body, there's like no drag at all. And if it's helium, there's obviously no weight problem. So I'd give it a shot. Just find me a balloon small enough. And do we really want to waste our supply of helium? We're running out of that stuff apparently. Like we as a populace. I don't know if you've read that, but like helium is like running out. It's something we cannot remake, and like we're using it up. We don't need a freaking cure for COVID. We need to figure out how to make helium before it goes away forever. But anyway, I mean, yeah, it's a cool thing. I could try it. I don't know if I can find a balloon small enough to do it right here, or actually, it wouldn't have to be that small. If I could cut a hole through here, I could make it like a bladder that goes through. But it's still got to be small because, in my case, I can't have that much of a drag penalty on the outside of the plane. I guess I'll just have to build a blended body now, won't I? This is just a shady way of trying to get me to build one of those planes. Which, of course, challenge accepted. I'll do it. I don't care. Certain planes will probably carry it better than others. I can picture a phase with it. Maybe one of my fighter bombers. An upscaled version.
Yeah, it'd have to be lighter than air, right?
So any nitrogen.
Nitrogen's heavier than air, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sorry, failed science too.
I'm kidding.
But no, yeah, like anything that's like lighter than air. So yeah, I mean that would work. I don't exactly know what the quote unquote helium shortage is doing to the price of helium. I mean seriously because they talk about it, but I'm pretty sure if you go down to your dollar store or your convenience store and decide to fill up helium balloons for a freaking birthday party, they'll still do it. But I've never done it, so I don't know if the price has risen like gas or what. And ironically, helium's a gas. But yeah, supposedly it's running out, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Do we even do that with balloons anymore? I don't know.
It'd be interesting. Uh,
Like, how much does it cost to fill a helium balloon? Party balloons, right? Because there's still stores that, like Party City, don't they have a balloon pen to keep the balloons from floating away? And they're obviously floating because they're filled with helium. So again, unless they charge like those balloons cost $10 a piece now. If it is, we obviously don't care that much. But I find it a funny statement in general because of that very reason. Like,
God, price of gas is going up. Now we're gonna have that price of gas going up.
what price of gas goes down? We'll never have anything. Uh, you type in party and Party City comes up right away.
Yeah, but are they expensive? You put down, dude. You put down. You could buy a helium tank set at Walmart, and already thinking, oh, cool, $10.
See, this goes with what I was saying before. Is exactly like, okay, so how much do you want to spend
How much exactly do you want to spend on your?
on your art, on your hobby?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd be willing to do it. I think, especially to try something like that, because, like you said, but again, there's still even you would have to worry about a balance situation because, like, you've lost planes, I've lost planes, we've lost planes, but you'll be damned if you have one fly really good and then lose it because it never freaking comes down. You better write a message on it. And you better say, like, I flew from Georgia. Where are you at now? And you better make it tapered because it's going to have to be waterproof so if and when it ends up in the water. Because let's face it, if you're on the East Coast, it's probably going to end up in the water. If there's a chance it goes with any kind of air that flows over the freaking U.S., it goes from west to east. OAE, we're looking at you, brother. You need to do a freaking helium plane and see if you could throw it to Robert or me because it's going to come to us from you. If it doesn't burn itself out in the sky first. Oh, look, this one's been singed. This must be OA's plane. I don't know where he's at. That's actually, I'm trying to solve that problem. Yeah, I know. Yeah, propane tank. Usually they're red and usually pretty big. You ever try to start a grill with one of those? It's impossible. Everybody always talks about propane grilling. Nobody ever talks about helium grilling. I wonder why that is. Probably because after everybody had their steaks, they'd be talking like little girls. Oh, that was the best steak ever. It was perfectly done.
Yes, ma'am, that was done with helium. I didn't have any. I'm vegan. There's some interesting possibilities of something like that, though. It's just a matter of either upscaling a plane enough to contain a balloon full of it, or getting a perhaps getting a I'm thinking more along the terms of either getting the balloon small enough to fit on a plane or upscaling the plane big enough. Either way, that's where I was getting at. But I'm thinking like, could you find a plane? I mean, like, would a regular plane, like a balloon, small enough to do that? I know balloons can be pretty small, but like also, like, to what level do they have to be before they? That's also crucial. Is like you have to get it at their expansive rate so that when helium gets in them, because let's face it, I'm assuming you're not going with Mylar. The traditional happy birthday balloons that are always in the balloon pens, you don't see them like, this big. Although I swear to God, now that I've said that, I used to remember something like that. They used to have like the little hearts that would bob around on the top of your pen that were made with helium. I guess maybe you can find those. And if you can find those, that would be it, wouldn't it? That'd be like the perfect size of helium bladder that would go in there. The question is whether or not it would be light enough to do anything to the paper plane. And you guys have all the science to figure out to do that too. Because if being blended bodybuilders, where it actually has a fuselage that's rounded and an area for a bladder because it's got structure and a skeleton inside, you could fit them in there. But it's a matter of, like, again, you got to play with the formulas of weights to figure out, like, okay, this balloon expands to this size, so I got to make sure it fits in here. But the weight of the plane is such that it's going to keep this down no matter what I do. I need to make sure that it actually. I just thought of something. In your case, balloon time. Okay, let me check it. In your case, though, it just makes me wonder if you taper something, is it watertight? Is it airtight? Can you make it that way? Because why don't you just fill the inside body entirely with helium? I mean, you'd have to do some kind of test of which I don't even know. You'd have to do some kind of stress test to find if the body of your plane is truly watertight / airtight, and then you could fill the body with just helium. I mean, you wouldn't even have to worry about a balloon or a bladder. You just fill the body with helium, and you would ultimately find. I assume that, oh yeah, my God, it really is. Well, that's a big tank, isn't it? Something makes me wonder, like, you don't really need that big of a tank for, well, not for our purposes. I mean, I'd have helium for the rest of my life. So maybe, in other words, 20 years from now, when we actually get close to running out, I say, like, I got some. $200, pal. 20 years from now, $200 ain't gonna be chump change. $2,000, pal. That's really cool. Yeah, it will leak out well, yeah, but I mean, is there a way to secure, I mean, you taper the hell out of your birds. I mean, is there a way to, like, overlap the tape? Every time I say something, I find the other idea. It's either what's right or what's wrong. I mean, again, in theory, it sounds like a great practice. Just fill the inside body with helium, so you have a true lifting body, with a pun intended, because, like, with helium, it's going to lift. But the more tape you add, the more weight you add, which might counterbalance all the helium you can put in. So then you have to enlarge it, then you have to add more weight, and you have to move more helium, and it's a vicious cycle you're going to get stuck in. So I guess the bladder might work, because you're still going to be concerned, again, with that ultimate, like, weight paradox. Like, what is the sweet spot of helium versus weight to make sure that it lifts, or at least lifts enough that you could get the flight? Well, I mean, supposedly, dude, it doesn't have to be that bad. Supposedly, isn't, like, even packing tape. Like, if you overlap it, air ain't gonna escape if it's taped right. I mean, I don't even know. Whatever method you do that you have for taping it, obviously you probably have a little bit of an overlap. But I mean, air typically doesn't, like, I think they always say, like, okay, water and air always find a way to get into something, always find a way to get around something. Um, but a lot of adhesives, assuming they're just not basic Scotch tape, a lot of adhesives fight that. Now, again, duct tape I wouldn't, because duct tape has that surface that's like, there's pockets and everywhere, so air would probably escape that. But I mean, if you had a good set of, like, some of the tape that you have, even some of the regular stuff, if you're just overlapping it just right, I can't see how, like, with the proper overlap, as long as you make sure you've got it covered everywhere, where would it escape? I think you could almost effectively trap it inside the body without having too much of an issue. And I'd love to say you could stress test with water or a liquid, but obviously, as we all know, again, if you took, like, elementary school science, water is not at the same viscosity as air. It might find places to escape, and vice versa. Yes, water is a good, like, it's probably a good test staple because if it leaks out a hole, air's obviously going to escape there, but air finds ways to get through, especially if you make it under pressure. It'll like snake through somewhere, whereas you're not going to have that problem with water. Water's like you hold a pocket down somewhere like that, and it's actually just going to go and drop. It takes that area, whereas air will find. So it's a little bit different. I'd like to think that I'd like to think that it's possible for you guys. I knew he was going to do that. I knew he was going to do that. Um, I'd like to think that it's possible, but I don't know if. I think you guys should definitely work on it because you got a little bit of handed on it, and I might give it a shot. I mean, why not? Why not? It seems cool, and I know we're gonna. Like I said, I know I'm gonna build another blended body bird sometime because most of y'all seem to be doing that crap. But man, that seems rather interesting. I don't even know if I could like could it be done? Could you do that? And again, it does. My mind thinks like, okay, how many different ways are we going around here? Are we doing it like is it going is it trapped in a vicious cycle of weight versus lift? Because thrust and drag. I mean, drag is obviously an acting force, but thrust is almost nullified because once you've thrown, you're done. You're done. Throwing doesn't matter anymore. So yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I do like lifting body ideas and techniques and what it can be done. So I'm always looking for different planes. Uh, I don't want them to be overly complicated, but I do want them to be adventurous and flight worthy. So this is an interesting proposition. Definitely gonna have to look into this. I mean, hell, for that matter, okay, like we're sitting here talking about tape adhesive, but if you're going that far out, if you're going to make a body, especially if it's filled with helium, what if you made a body out of like balsa wood, model plastic, fiberboard, which again I've seen some of you guys do. Like you do use like a fiberboard, a cardboard, typically fiberboard, but like use that for the body. What if you use just model cement? I mean, yeah, you probably still have to use tape because you need to have some kind of surface. I'm almost thinking in that case you probably have tape on the inside and not the outside to form your bladder. But I'm thinking like if you have the if you have the tape to like become a lining and then you model cement the board together, the paper together. I mean, that'd be airtight. They have that shit like plastic weld, model weld. I mean, that stuff is airtight. Well, model cement is just glue, but like for models. And again, like they some of it's like actual plastic weld. They call it that. It bonds so well that like it fuses the plastic together. I mean, it's not an unheard of precedent. Everybody's got that stuff. You have that with rust. You have that with wood. You have that with epoxy. It's basically what it's doing is whatever the edges are. I mean, it's like most of the time it's melting it and fusing it. So you're recreating the body around it. That makes whatever it is you're playing with pretty much airtight. So if you're using said cement, that that's not a bad way of making something airtight. Um, and thinking about it, even visualizing it, thinking about it, it's like, okay, so again, if you use tape on the inside to create the lining and just near the edges, not of every tape, but like overlap should be okay. It would just be the outside body wherever the fiberboard meets. You just put the glue, put the cement, put the epoxy, let it weld, and in theory, that should make a really good airtight bladder. Then fill that with helium. I, again, I'm sorry. The pauses are because of like picturing this in my mind, and I'm like, okay, this is probably a good idea, but it's also like it's still. We deal with such a delicate craft, a delicate art that it's like, again, all these things we do add weight. So you're still stuck in the same cycle of adding enough to counterbalance the weight. I mean, yes, in our case, part of the equation is it's like lift squared because the wings are providing the lift, but now we're installing a medium, the helium, that provides more lift. So it's almost doubling the efforts of the plane. But still, that equation has to be like, okay, but is it counterbalancing the weight you're adding to create an airtight bubble?
And I'm looking at it from all aspects because again, like a balloon
Would still be the same problem. It's a little bit less of a problem, but it's still a problem.
you still going to have you're still going to have the exact same thing if you deal with. I mean, seriously, you're still going to have the exact same thing if you deal with a balloon. The balloon may be lighter, but all I'm considering is like how much easier and literally how much easier it will be to fill the inside of that kind of structure. I mean, because what'd be really cool is if the bladder was so pliable that you could stick it in there and it starts out as a little squiggly thing, but as soon as you start filling helium, it fills up the entire shape of the plane. Whatever the platform is, goes into the wings, goes into the fuselage, then you stop it. But see, that's the thing, you know it's not going to do that. We're not talking about making a balloon plane here. We're talking about making a bladder for the helium to go. And chances are it's just going to be ovoid, round, or cylinder. So, yeah, I know. That's why. And, like, that's why I always consider this a science. I mean, this is a science. We get so deep. I mean, without. I like to think, like, I mean, I love catering to the amateur crowd, but I also love catering to going in depth and talking about stuff like this. Like, how can we make it better? How can we get more out of it? So. Oh, that's simple. Not only is that, like, they're. Okay, it's not so simple. Nature finds a way. Hey, come on. But that's not a matter of that's a matter of like okay, the structure in the wing is super strong. The structure in between or like excuse me, well no, it is a structure, but the the membrane between the structure is so light and yet strong, doesn't rip, holds, retains retains lift, and then insects, well, they're just able to beat the ever beloved hell out of their wings. I can't get my wings to like flap at 300 beats per minute. You can, you tell me. But like I mean, the bumblebee, dude, everybody, bumblebees, they should not be able to fly. That's like one of like the great paradoxes of life. Bumblebees should not be able to fly. Their lift to drag slash weight slash thrust ratio is so like I mean it's so in favor of everything but lift that they should not be able to fly, and yet they do. So it's like I mean again that has to do with that's like hummingbirds. I mean obviously a regular bird not so many flaps per minute, but all that equates out to is the same thing we're talking about right here is the lifting area of the wing body, and of course they flap so they have thrust, and their thrust immediately fights gravity. It's like airplane thrust typically doesn't fight gravity. It provides, it provides thrust. It's forward motion. The wings provide the lift, but it's because of the air flowing across them. It's not like, like these planes do that for the most part. And again, you're trying that on the glide because they're dependent on that, forward motion. They don't have an engine though, so you got to fight it when they're already being dragged down to the ground. Real planes don't suffer from that because they're always got thrust. They have constant thrust. Birds don't. Their flight obviously provides them with forward momentum, but the flapping directly involves fighting gravity. So, it works both ways for them. Insect wings. Don't insect wings like work against gravity alone? I mean, they obviously fly forward, but like it's. Like, have you ever seen dragonflies? Man, you want to blow your own mind. Just imagine what dragonflies have to do to go through to get to flight and what they're able to do with their sets of wings to get the flights that they get. Because they're able to, take off backwards, stop on a dime,
and yet they can still fly at like 30, 35 miles an hour, I believe, fastest ones. So it's like, dude, all of that is in dragonfly wings. It's freaking crazy. I try not to. I've never seen that. What the hell was that? Really? What did you have there that did that? That must have been a giant freaking bug. I mean, like, dude, like, okay, you found world's scariest bug because if you can put it in a bottle and fly in the bottle, damn, dude, seriously. I mean, I don't even think giant water beetles that you're not supposed to step on because they kill you. Not literally, it just hurts like hell, but like seriously, ooh, man, damn, I can't imagine. You're not talking about a la cucaracha, are you? Because like, yeah, flying la cucarachas are kind of scary, but I mean, are you saying we should trap a bug in a plane and make it fly? I mean, if you can do that, if there's a way to do that, I just don't see how that would work. How does that work? I mean, I get how they do it when they're the ones that are out in the air, but if they're in a trapped environment, it's kind of like a plane in a trapped environment. You're just going to lift in said environment, aren't you? You're essentially going to kind of be like, if it's a small enough bug, we're talking like, okay, a model plane. Let's use a model plane as an example, even if it's a C5 and it's only this big, but if it's got a hollow cavity, you put a bug in there that can fly, it's going to fly in there. Do you know how much power that thing would have to create to actually push itself up, which I might add is going to probably hit its own wings, so affecting its ability to fly at all anyway, and then drive itself up and then drive said anything it's sitting in your case a bottle, in my case a plane, which is supposedly aerodynamic. I have like, that's like nuts. I mean, I understand that's how what you call, what are those things? Mexican jumping beans. I understand it's supposedly how like Mexican jumping beans work. But I mean, okay, I see. Okay, yeah, yeah. Why is this all in like pseudoscience though? Like they're making, dude, this is like you're 14. I mean, like, how in the hell? Okay, I can, yeah, maybe. I just, that's, man, you gotta believe. Do I believe? I don't know if I believe. I mean, I understand that it's like, okay, it's like a bird. Flapping your wing, you want to get some kind of thing. This plane, by the way, actually has the pinstripes I was talking about. I was attempting. See how cool it could look? Yeah. Anyway, man, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Uh, that's so nether regions. Trying to find the science of something like that when is it really a science? Is it metaphysical? I mean, insects fly. They just fly. They have wings that can create their own thrust and lift, like a bird does. I don't believe birds levitate any more than insects levitate. I mean, yes, that may help explain how it is bumblebees get airborne. But still, like, dude, come on. That, man, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Sorry about the camera. I'm experimenting with something today. So you're along for the ride. It's perhaps goofy, and yet it's also perhaps like, whoa. I wanted to be able to make it more free in case I did something else, and I'm not even doing that, so it's like not working. But that's why it's kind of wobbly. I mean, I think we're probably a good 300 years away from anything that's going to be something close to anti-gravity.
I mean, it probably exists in nature in more ways than one. I'm sure of that. It's just for us to use it. No, no, we're so far away from that. We can sleep. No, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Is Viktor Grebenikov? But even they say it's like pseudo levitation. Static might be the main thing. Static can cause a lot, but dude, you're talking about okay, that's exploring electromagnetic levitation, which of course is possible. I mean, you can levitate magnets because they do that. They'll fight themselves as long as you keep themselves in a controlled environment. But anything's like that. And like we're trying to say, you can cause enough static inside the body of one of our planes to actually keep it levitated. I suppose that's possible, but you'll have to keep the outside excited somehow. You want to keep it charged? That's a good idea, actually, thinking about it. It goes back to what we were talking about last week when you have like a calculator battery on the outside and you just need two wires, not even connected to anything. Small enough, I mean, tiny battery, doesn't matter because you need a power source and two wires, no matter the width. And if you have them, you can leave it on the outside, have the wires running the inside to this proposed bug that can levitate. You excite it because you're bringing up the static, positive, negative ions in there, and in theory should fly. I don't know, man. That's I was a lot more of a wider believer of metaphysiology back in the day, but still, I mean, I can get it. I can get with that. Don't get me wrong. That seems pretty cool. I would have to see it in one of our planes, though. Somebody's going to have to throw one in there and see what we got. That's basically it. You're going to have to give it a shot. Well, I mean, I've had that, and we've had ones too that like, but see, we don't construe anything like out of the ordinary when stuff like that happens. NASA's has been around me. We've flown to like, I mean, just ask him. He's had one do it. I've had three do it. I've had other friends do it. Again, it's like it's not a matter of like Ouija, the chronoplan, okay? Like they take advantage of that effect, wing and ground effect, okay? And they basically hover. The lift is provided solely by they're not supposed to fly, but they're supposed to hover. They're just trapping a bubble of air beneath them and they're hovering on it. They don't get over like 200 feet. They're not supposed to. Hell, I don't think they get over 50 feet. But the same thing, yeah. I mean, you get it to this level, you trap air down there. Yeah, entirely possible. But in our case too, it's like we've seen them go higher when like I mean like literally there's been a few flights. It hasn't been many, but there's been a few flights where you would swear somebody was inside there controlling them because they're like fly, looks like they could come down, then decide to pitch up and keep going. And again, I have witnesses. But I I am willing to let the science explain it away that again it caught a thermal. I mean literally there's a current. There are microcurrents. It's not a matter of like the jet stream is the only thing there. There are smaller levels of jet streams. There are currents that these things are going to feel that we're not going to feel because they get up to 20, 50 feet in the air and they're already experiencing something different than we are. And then again, you catch a pocket, something's warmer than the other. Maybe you got above a manhole. Maybe the manhole was warmer or cooler. If it's open, it could be thrusting air up and it caught that, it gone. Totally unexplained at the time. You didn't really look into it. But, I mean, I do want to see something like that. I love those. Obviously, they provide hella good flights, too. I mean, shit like that is what gets your planes really, really going. So, I don't know if I trust it to insects. I mean, don't, again, if we can do it, that'd be really cool. But are we talking about something that's feasible again here? I mean, I'm not going to let La Cucaracha run around the inside of my plane until it makes like, where the hell are you going? What are you doing, crazy? Oh, there must be a bunny rabbit outside. Cat's going nuts. Okay, okay.
So, good talk, people. Ah, I like the helium idea. I like that idea. Anything we can get to get it lifting. I mean, short of shrinking a man down to about like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and putting him in the cockpit and say, "Dude, fly my plane for me. I'll pay you."
What do you mean, like
Just like lift engines, lift bodies.
That's kind of generic. I was just wondering, like, anything in particular? I mean,
I again, and me and Ben talked about this last week. Vertical lift engines. I worked with those for a little bit. Dumbest things I ever. Okay, dumbest things I ever installed. One of the greatest ideas we ever had. But yeah, we installed them on the back of the plane instead of the front of the plane. Now, what do you get when you put something? Here's a good quiz for you people. What do you get when you put something that weighs a shit ton on the back of your plane, but in theory drives the air in such a way that it should just shoot out the bottom in a small hole? You get this. It's like, seriously. Okay, so the design was. We've talked about this in a previous show, but I'm gonna give it to you again. It's funny when I think about it, of how stupid it really was. Okay, so I put it in the back of one of these. It was literally like it was a phase two, so this was straight, right? Put it in the back of here. It was two boxes on either side, and I thought it cool enough to actually make it a slanted intake, so it kind of looked like it was an F-15. Um,
but the end was flat because, I mean, we're trapping the air. What we did was, we it was an intake here. It went inside, and I'd make you the box, but it didn't take an hour. But like we made all the tabs because here's what we were talking about too, Robert. We were saying like lift making tape trap air because it's like airworthy.
this was the ultimate test. We didn't only use Scotch tape. I'm keeping a smile on my face, thinking how stupid this was. But like, so we taped the back end, so the back end was flat, right? And we create like what you do when you make a paper model. You like you have your shape. My shape was this, but then to form it to the body, you gave it little tabs here, tab here, tab here, a tab here, because these were the ones that you could fold and then tape down so it didn't affect the actual body, right? So in our benevolent wisdom, we taped these tabs down and figured, yeah, that'll trap the air. So we had the body, okay? And obviously, like I said, it looked cool in the front. It looked like it was, if it was an engine, it would have been an engine. It would have been cool. Intake, outtake. Okay, but my outtakes were boxes in the bottom. So what I did was, you had the body in there, but inside the body of that, and again, can you see that? Okay, so I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger so it's a little bit more of a standout. Okay, so this is on the side of the plane, right? So it goes in, but it goes down, right? Air enters the intake, but it shoots down because what I did was on the bottom of the design, and this was the bottom of it, I made a square hole here. Like I said, the back end is closed off supposedly, and I put little tabs right here. I cut these at this spot, and this spot, and this spot, and this spot, so that you could fold these down. So in theory, the air went in there and went out this hole because inside what I did was I also made, this was the complex part about it, was I made a ramp. It had the tabs. It did the exact same tabs like these here. So it folded in here. It followed this line. And then, of course, I'm sillying myself. So the air would hit that and shoot down this hole because it went right to the edge of the hole. Stupid, I know. I mean, if tape was truthfully airproof, like it didn't allow air. I mean, and the thing is in this practice, it worked because even if some air escaped, most of the air hit this and went down. I mean, seriously, in the practice of it, you're looking at it, you're doing it, and it's like, okay, the air is going in here and hitting down. Some is getting through, negligible amounts compared to the stuff that's shooting down. Here's the problem. There is so much paper and so much tape in so little of an opening at the back end of a plane. I mean, what did this prove? Not a goddamn thing. I mean, if you're going to put something that heavy, that was easily heavier than anything we did in the nose, back here and have the air go into a little opening
that shoot straight down in the back. What did you think the plane did? It did this. It flipped end over end and dropped, like only about 2 feet away from me. I might add, even when we put a house key in the nose, it still did that. We went beyond a penny. We went beyond a dime. We went beyond a nickel, 2 nickels. We went to the house key, and that plane sucked. The engine idea, the lifting engine, we called it the vertical lift engine. It was a great theory. I mean, obviously, you saw how it could work. Big ass intake, small outtake, too much tape, too much paper in the back. If it was, key one would have been if it would have been up here. If you could have done it up here, probably could have had something. I don't know. I remember Farrell and Copeland got into Farrell's Firestone Aero, and Sims Copeland Industries. They got into it and they worked on one, and they came up with one that had. Okay, I kind of helped this one along after the fact, but they came up with one that had intakes in the leading edge, so they cut holes like right here. Like I believe he cut like a diamond hole in about the same place. They folded, they cut it out, they cut this little thing. You're seeing this. They cut this little section out. Then they put a little, I think it was a toothpick, in the inside to poof that out. So it actually was like the wing pocket wasn't like sharp like this. It was actually open, and it actually literally made intakes. I don't know where it shot. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, because literally they left it open in the back, so it shot through. I remember even laughing about that back in the day, because I was like, so what's that going to do? I was trying not to be insulting. I mean, I didn't say it like that, because literally I wasn't thinking that was like, oh my God, they created something totally stupid. I thought there was something to it. Dude, to this day, I will not turn anything down. Something's probably got some way to work. So I thought it was something cool. I just didn't know what. So I was like, so what does it do? You know, and even now, I was still probably, what does it do? But like, I mean, it goes in, it comes out. Oh, it's just an intake. It's an engine. Yeah, it might be. But how and why? What do you need? Do you need that? Is it doing anything? Maybe it's stabilizing the air. I mean, it probably is. If it passes through, it's stabilizing. Can it act like a lifting body? Maybe. If you have enough wing, like a Delta Diamond, and NASA's need to pay attention to this because he's got a few Delta Diamonds. Instead of having a doubled up Delta Diamond, cut one end off. Like say, okay, like dual paper, because you have a fold here. So I've got 2 papers back here, right? See that? If this were, like, okay, if I were to cut the bottom end shorter than the top, and there was an intake there that passed through, obviously the air would pass through an end here instead of up here, so it'd stall out. Sorry, I'm thinking. This is giving me some interesting ideas. So if you, like, I wonder what would happen if I actually did that with this. You'd have to pass air through, but if it shortens up there, what if the wing pocket was all the way? I'd affect the gravity, but if I drop them on a nose, but then I cut like this off and then there's wing, but if this actually sticks down below. Sorry, people, I'm having an idea here. I mean, like, it's not an idea, it's just more like, what would happen? I'm going to get into this next week. I don't want to get into this. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. Actually, we're right at 2 hours. Thanks, guys. We've had a good show. I'm not trying to cut this off short, but I am, because, of the day it is and stuff like that. We've had a good show. And Robert, I appreciate you coming out. I'm sorry that, like, I'm kind of cutting this short, but I also know I need to get ready because we're leaving. So look, basically here is, and let's continue this next week. So we're talking about lift. We're talking about ways to get lift. I appreciate y'all coming out. Try some of these ideas, kids. I'd like to see what you guys got. My idea was the camera today. Woo, dingly. Try some of these ideas. See what we got. Let me try to get some of these videos posted up here that I have, and I'll get back with you. But pretty good show tonight. Thanks for being here. And as always, keep them flying.